Hi guys, and welcome to today's task. This is our electrical panel for this house. So you have seen how we brought power all the way from our meter main and transformer all the way into the house. Now it comes to a panel just like this. This is a typical panel you'll see in everybody's home. This happens to be a 200 amp Square D home line brand of panel, which is kind of the panel I really prefer, is Square D. And I really like this breaker system for the home line system. You don't have to be using that, but this was the 200 amp one I found and I really like it. So now we are going to take the 3 strands of 350 kc mil wire that we brought in, our neutral and our 2 hots, also our ground, and then we are going to connect it to the ground that we connected to our footings and foundation so that this house is completely grounded. Our conduit is all the way set into the house, and we are ready to just set that panel. Guys, when it comes to doing anything with electrical, I really recommend that you wear leather gloves, or at least a set of gloves. I really kind of like these gloves. I will link them in the description. But it's not so much for the electrical shock issue, because all this wire we're working on is actually dead, but it's for the sharp edges. Everything in the electrical field, for some reason, has sharp, thin edges. And if you do the work without gloves, by the end of the day, you'll notice that you've got micro little cuts on your hands, and when you go to wash them, they're gonna hurt. So I do recommend wearing gloves. Protects the fingers a little bit. Your first step is to line up your electrical panel's knockouts. This one happens to be in the middle of the panel, so I actually went off my conduit and then framed in 2 more studs right here so that my panel sat in between them perfectly. I didn't want to try playing the maneuver conduit around. These studs right now are a lot easier to move. With the knockout out, we grab our wires that are going directly in. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Okay. The next thing you want to do is really secure this to these studs so that when we're moving this wire around, it doesn't flop everything around either. We've got a good solid base for this to stay put to. All electrical panels come with tons and tons of knockouts for you to run wire through, top, bottom, all over the place, but there are a few special ones right here and up top as well that are for connecting to these studs. So you're going to put your screwdriver on there, just like that. Whoop. Now we have good little slots that'll even float a little bit for our screws to mount to these studs with. With this set and ready, I am going to set one. Dang it. Now this panel is fixed, set in, and it's not going anywhere. So now we can actually start flexing these wires because these are beefy, and when you move them, this whole thing's gonna shift just a little bit, so we'll make it as secure as possible. I've kind of thought, how can I get this wires to wrap around the sides of this panel and then come up on top? This stuff doesn't flex very well. It's really, really rigid. This is far more rigid than the average home will have, and it's just because of how far we had to travel it. The typical home was about a quarter of this size. Typically it's 4/0 wire, same amount of amperage, it's just a matter of distance, but we don't need to talk about that. But I thought, how can I get all these wires to sit in? Our 2 leads have to go from here up into these, what are they called? To these 2 lugs, and I feel like if it comes up the side and arches here, I can get it over to here, and same, they'll just cross paths. I feel like if it comes up this side, and stays on the same side, it's gonna be too tight, or just a little bit tighter than I want it to be. And then with the neutral, where it's gonna go in the middle, it can go up either side, and then we have the ground and then our other grounding rod. So we've got a lot that's got to go into this main panel. This is just to get power in here, not including what we're going to send back out. but that wire is a lot more flexible. So for now, we'll just work with this stuff. Okay, feel like that's about as square as that's gonna get. Up like that. Yeah, I think making those jumps over is gonna be the best bet for this. This wire is so thick that I'm actually having to use a saw because the tool that you would typically have if you're an electrician to cut this thick wire is very expensive to have. Nobody has them in the valley, and it's not really worth it for a onesie-twosie thing. This works just fine. With this first piece flexed into place as much as I can possibly get it. And it's like you gotta kind of bend it on the outside and then overset it. We can make our first mark and cut it. There we go. Nice clean cut. Since our lugs are 1 inch deep, I'm gonna come back 1 inch and strip that much. And there's our clean, ready to install wire. Now that we've got our wire cut, I'm gonna loosen up this lug. And to fit this wire, we have to back these out almost 100%. And with that in, we can tighten this lug back up and our neutral is set. And I'm doing that by hand, not with a drill, so that I can really kind of feel how much force I'm putting on there. These actually do have a torque rating that you can look up as well to know how tight you can get these. There. Same thing. There, up. And I think I can actually make that turn. I didn't think I'd be able to, but I think it makes it okay. Okay, I think we've got that one. Mark it. It moves a little hard to see on black, but it works. Nice and clean. Same thing, we're gonna strip 1 inch, come back about 1 inch. Start working your way around it. This is where you're really gonna test your grip and strength. And they do make tools that'll strip this stuff as well, but I didn't really feel like buying one for 3 little strands. When I can do just as good of a job. Now we can set our black leads in. Come on, get in there all the way. Tighten this guy up. Okay, 2 of them are in. Oh, these are tight stinking wires. Ideally, it would have been nice if we could have just brought those through the top, because that's, you know, could have just brought through and spread them out and set them in, but it's just not the way it ended up going, so we're okay. We'll just keep working here. Now the other side. Okay. Okay, that one looks about right there. Same thing. Mark it. Come back 1 inch. That right there. All right, now to set our last lead, we're gonna loosen up this lug. And I don't want to take these set screws all the way out, but I am like kind of putting my finger down there to see if it's backed up as far as I can let it go and keep it in the threads. This one looks good. And just to show you what it looks like, this is our neutral, our ground is going to go there as well, and this lead are the 2 different hots for the panel. This has copper on it, so it's more conductive. It has teeth, so it bites into those a little bit better, because these connections have to be very secure. All of them really do. But if your power connections are not very secure, they can get hot. They'll create heat, they'll arc. That's how house fires start. Now I can set this guy in nice and square. There we go. Yep. So now it's in all the way. We'll tighten it in place. And according to the panel, the torque setting is 50 pounds of torque on all of them. I can flex our wire, get it sitting back in, nice and tight. And there are our 3 main wires. That's our 350 kc mil wire ran in. We can run our ground up. We've got one last knockout in there that'll feed this guy. This guy can come on. Okay. Now that guy's cut, I'm going to connect him at the top of this bus bar for the grounds. All right. Now I can run our ground up the other side. Oops. Now with our ground in there, we can just go ahead and tighten that guy down as well. Now in order to set the rest of this panel up, we actually have to connect these leads to a breaker over there. It has to be interruptible, if that's even the right word, but it can't just be hot power, constant, no place to shut off from this panel to here. Even though this panel can shut off here, it has to be able to be interrupted long before. So we have a 200 amp breaker over there that will connect these two, and that's the easy part. While this is not your everyday task, this is an easy task that you can do if you're building your own home, or if you're wanting to just put an updated panel in your house. Kill the power, undo your leads, and restring a new panel for you so that you've got updated breakers. Some houses have very old breakers and they're not any good anymore. And maybe you just want to update it to a better and more secure way to get power into your home. So if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you later. To this wall. No, there is, and we have, this is our electrical meter